Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited you're here today because we're going to learn something super practical together. We're going to go through 100 sentences that native English speakers use every single day. Yes, 100. And don't worry, I'm going to explain everything clearly, so even if you're just starting to learn English, you'll be able to follow along and understand. Learning English doesn't have to be boring or complicated. In fact, the best way to learn is by listening to real sentences that people actually use in their daily lives. These aren't textbook phrases that sound strange or formal. These are the real deal. The kind of sentences you'll hear at the grocery store, at work, with friends, or at home with family. So grab a notebook if you want to take notes, get comfortable, and let's dive right in. Let's start with the morning. When you wake up, what's the first thing you might say? Well, if someone wakes you up, you might hear, "Good morning, did you sleep well?" This is such a common question. People ask this to show they care about you, and you can answer simply by saying, "Yes, I slept great, thanks," or "Not really, I woke up a few times." See, simple and natural. Now maybe you're getting ready for the day and someone in your house asks, "What do you want for breakfast?" This is a super common question in the morning. You could say, "I'll just have some coffee and toast," or "I'm not very hungry right now." And here's a good one. If you're running late, you might say, "I don't have time for breakfast today." We've all been there, right? Okay, let's say you're leaving the house. You might tell someone, "I'm heading out now. See you later." This is so natural. Heading out means you're leaving, and "see you later" is just a friendly way to say goodbye. If someone says this to you, you can respond with, "Okay, have a great day," or simply, "See you." Now you're outside, maybe walking to the bus stop or your car. If you see a neighbor, you might say, "Hey, how's it going?" This is a very casual greeting. You're not asking for a detailed answer. It's just a friendly way to say hello. The other person will usually say something like, "Good, thanks. How about you?" And you can say, "I'm doing well, thanks." Let's talk about the weather for a second because English speakers love talking about the weather. If it's a nice day, you might say, "It's such a beautiful day today," or "The weather is perfect." And if it's raining, you could say, "It's really coming down out there," which means it's raining heavily, or simply, "Looks like rain today." These small comments about the weather are a great way to start a conversation. All right, now let's imagine you're at work or school. When you arrive, you'll probably greet people. You might say, "Good morning, everyone," or just "morning." In English, we often drop the word good and just say morning or afternoon to keep things quick and casual. If someone asks, "How are you today?" you can answer, "I'm good, thanks. How about you?" Notice how we often turn the question back to the other person. That's very polite and shows you care. During your workday, you'll need to ask for things or offer help. For example, "Could you help me with this?" is a polite way to ask for assistance. Or you might offer help by saying, "Do you need any help with that?" People really appreciate when you offer to help. And if someone helps you, don't forget to say, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate it." Gratitude is so important in English-speaking culture. Here's a situation that happens all the time. You need to ask someone to repeat something because you didn't hear them clearly. You can say, "Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat it?" Or simply, "What did you say?" And if you don't understand something, it's totally okay to say, "I don't understand. Could you explain that again?" Native speakers ask these questions too, so don't feel embarrassed. Let's talk about making plans with friends. Someone might text you or call and say, "What are you doing this weekend?" You could respond, "I'm not sure yet. Why, what's up?" Or, "I don't have any plans. Do you want to hang out?" Hang out is a very common phrase that means spending time together in a casual way. You might also hear, "Do you want to grab coffee sometime?" Grab is informal and means to get something quickly. If you're accepting an invitation, you might say, "That sounds great. What time works for you?" Or, "I'd love to, just let me check my schedule." And if you can't make it, you can politely say, "I wish I could, but I'm busy that day," or "Thanks for the invite, but I already have plans." It's important to be polite when declining invitations. Now let's move to a restaurant scenario because eating out is something everyone does. When you walk into a restaurant, the host might say, "Hi, how many people are in your party?" don't worry. Party here doesn't mean a celebration. It just means your group. You'd answer, just two, please, or there are four of us. Then they might say, right this way, which means follow me, and they'll take you to your table. When you sit down, your server will come over and might say, hi, I'm Sarah, and I'll be taking care of you today. Can I start you off with something to drink? You can respond, I'll have water, please, or can I get a lemonade? When you're ready to order food, the server will ask, are you ready to order? If you need more time, just say, could we have a few more minutes? And when you are ready, you might say, I'll have the chicken sandwich, please. Here's a useful phrase. If you want to know about a dish, you can ask, what do you recommend? Or what's good here? The server will usually give you some suggestions. And if you have a food allergy or preference, you should say, I'm allergic to nuts. Or does this have dairy in it? It's important to ask these questions for your health and safety. When you're finished eating, the server might ask, how was everything? You can say, it was delicious, thank you, or everything was great. And when you're ready to leave, you can say, could we get the check, please? In American English, we say check, but in British English, they say bill. Both are correct. Let's switch to shopping now. When you walk into a store, an employee might ask, hi, are you finding everything okay? This is just a polite way to offer help. You can say, yes, I'm just browsing, thanks, which means you're just looking around. Or if you need help, say, actually, I'm looking for a blue sweater. Do you have any? If you want to try something on, you can ask, can I try this on? Or where are the fitting rooms? And after trying something on, if it doesn't fit, you might say, this is too small. Do you have a bigger size? Or this is too big. Do you have this in a medium? When you're ready to buy something, you go to the register and the cashier will say, did you find everything you needed? You can simply say, yes, thank you. The cashier will then say, your total is $23.50. You can pay with cash or card. If you're paying with card, they might ask, credit or debit. And if you have a rewards card or coupon, you can say, I have a coupon, or can I use my rewards card? When the transaction is complete, they'll say, here's your receipt. Have a great day. And you respond, thanks, you too. Let's talk about some common phrases you use when you're at home. Maybe you're watching TV with your family and someone asks, what do you want to watch? You might say, I don't care. You can choose, or how about we watch a movie? If you can't find the remote control, you might ask, have you seen the remote? This happens all the time. When you're cooking dinner, someone might ask, what are we having for dinner? You could say, I'm making pasta tonight, or I haven't decided yet, any requests? And when dinner is ready, you can announce, dinner's ready, come and eat. During the meal, you might compliment the cook by saying, this is really good, or you're a great cook. Everyone loves a compliment. After dinner, someone needs to clean up. You might offer by saying, I'll do the dishes tonight, or someone might ask, can you help me clean up? And you can respond, sure, no problem. Helping around the house is important, and these phrases make it easy to communicate about chores. Let's talk about phone calls because even though we text a lot now, we still make phone calls. When you answer the phone, you say, hello? And the caller might say, hi, is this Jessica? You respond, yes, this is she, or speaking. If the call is for someone else, you say, hold on, let me get her for you, or sorry, she's not home right now. Can I take a message? If you're the one making a call and someone else answers, you might say, hi, this is Mike. Is Tom available? If Tom is busy, the person might say, he's in the shower right now. Can he call you back? And you'd say, sure, that works, or no problem, just tell him I called. Before ending a call, you might say, okay, I'll let you go, which is a polite way to end the conversation. Then you say, talk to you later, or bye. Now let's discuss asking for and giving directions because this is super useful when you're traveling or in a new place. If you're lost, you can ask someone, excuse me, do you know where the library is? Or, how do I get to Main Street from here? People are usually happy to help. They might say, go straight for 2 blocks, then turn left, or it's just around the corner. If the directions are complicated, you might need to say, sorry, could you say that again? Or could you speak a little slower? Don't be shy about asking for clarification. And when someone helps you, always say, thank you so much. I appreciate your help. If you're the one giving directions, you might also say, you can't miss it, which means it's very easy to find. Let's talk about expressing opinions and feelings. In conversations, people often ask what you think about something. They might say, what do you think about this? Or how do you feel about that idea? You can respond, I think it's great, or I'm not sure how I feel about it. If you agree with someone, you can say, I agree with you, or that's exactly what I think. And if you disagree, you can politely say, I see what you mean, but I think differently, or I respectfully disagree. Sometimes you need to make suggestions. You can say, why don't we try that new restaurant? Or how about we leave a little earlier? These are polite ways to suggest ideas. If someone suggests something and you like it, say, that sounds perfect, or great idea. And if you're not interested, you can say, I'd rather do something else, or maybe we could do that another time. Let's discuss apologizing because we all make mistakes. If you bump into someone, you say, oh, I'm so sorry, or excuse me. If you're late, you might say, sorry I'm late, traffic was terrible, or I apologize for being late. When someone apologizes to you, you can respond, that's okay, or no worries, or don't worry about it. Accepting apologies graciously is just as important as apologizing. Sometimes you need to interrupt someone politely. Instead of just cutting them off, you can say, sorry to interrupt, but, or excuse me, can I say something quickly? This shows respect for the other person while still getting your point across. And if someone interrupts you, you can say, let me finish my thought, or hold on, I wasn't done yet. Let's talk about expressing likes and dislikes. If someone asks, do you like pizza? You might say, I love pizza, or pizza is my favorite. If you don't like something, you can say, I'm not a big fan of seafood, or it's not really my thing. You don't have to be harsh. You can be honest but polite. And if you're neutral, you might say, it's okay, I guess, or I can take it or leave it. Here are some phrases for when you're tired or need a break. You might say, I'm exhausted, or I'm so tired today. If you need rest, you can say, I need to lie down for a bit, or I'm going to take a quick nap. And if someone is working too hard, you might tell them, you should take a break, or don't overdo it. When something surprises you, you might exclaim, wow, really? Or no way, or are you serious? These are natural reactions to surprising news. And if something shocks you, you might say, I can't believe it, or that's incredible. Express your emotions naturally, and your English will sound more fluent and authentic. Let's discuss talking about the future. When making plans, you might say, I'm going to visit my parents next month, or I'll probably stay home this weekend. If you're not certain, you can say, I might go to the gym later, or I'm thinking about taking a trip this summer. And when asking about someone else's plans, say, what are you up to tomorrow? Or do you have any plans for the holidays? Now let's cover some phrases for when things go wrong. If something breaks, you might say, oh no, it's broken, or this isn't working. When you make a mistake, you can say, oops, my bad, which is a casual way to say my mistake. If you're frustrated, you might say, this is so frustrating, or I can't figure this out. It's normal to express frustration sometimes. When you need someone's attention, you can say, excuse me, or hey, can I talk to you for a second? If someone is busy, you might ask, is this a good time? Or am I interrupting? This shows you respect their time. And if you need immediate help, you can say, I need your help right now, or this is urgent. Let's talk about compliments because giving and receiving compliments is an important part of social interaction. If you like someone's outfit, you can say, I love your shirt, or that color looks great on you. When someone compliments you, don't just say thanks and move on. You can say, thank you, that's so nice of you to say, or I appreciate that. You can also give a compliment back like, thanks, I like your shoes too. Here are some phrases for ending conversations. When you need to leave, you can say, I should get going, or I need to head out. If you're on the phone, you might say, I should let you go, or I don't want to keep you. Before saying goodbye, you might add, it was great talking to you, or let's catch up again soon. And then you finish with take care, or see you later, or simply bye. When asking for permission, you use phrases like can I, may I, or is it okay if I, for example, can I borrow your pen? Or is it okay if I open the window? When giving permission, you say sure or go ahead or of course, and if you need. To deny permission, you can say, I'd rather you didn't, or actually, I need that right now. Let's discuss expressing certainty and uncertainty. If you're sure about something, you might say, I'm positive, or I'm absolutely certain, or I'm 100% sure. If you're not sure, you can say, I'm not sure, or I don't know for certain, or I could be wrong, but. It's important to be honest about what you know and don't know. When giving advice, you can use phrases like, if I were you, I'd, or you should probably, or have you considered. For example, if I were you, I'd talk to your boss about it, or you should probably see a doctor. And when receiving advice, you can say, that's good advice, or I'll think about it, or thanks for the suggestion. Here are some phrases for expressing worry or concern. You might say, I'm worried about, or I'm concerned that, or I hope everything is okay. For example, I'm worried about the test tomorrow, or I'm concerned that it might rain. When someone expresses worry, you can reassure them by saying, don't worry, it'll be fine, or everything will work out. Let's talk about expressing happiness and excitement. When something good happens, you might say, I'm so happy, or this is amazing, or I can't wait. For example, I'm so happy you came, or I can't wait for the concert. You can also say, this made my day, which means something made you very happy. When expressing gratitude beyond just thank you, you can say, I really appreciate this, or I can't thank you enough, or you're a lifesaver. These phrases show deeper gratitude. And when someone thanks you, instead of just saying you're welcome, you can also say anytime, or happy to help, or no problem at all. Now let's cover some casual conversation fillers that native speakers use all the time. When you're thinking, you might say or let me think, or well. When you want to change topics, you can say, by the way, or speaking of which, or oh, that reminds me. For example, by the way, did you hear about the new coffee shop? These little phrases make your English sound more natural and fluent. When talking about habits and routines, you use phrases like I usually, I always, I often, I sometimes, I rarely, or I never. For example, I usually wake up at 7, or I never eat breakfast, or I sometimes go for a run in the evening. These words help you talk about how often you do things, and they're super useful in everyday conversation. Let's discuss asking for clarification. If you don't understand something, you can say, what do you mean by that? Or could you give me an example? Or I'm not following you. And if you want to make sure you understood correctly, you can say, so what you're saying is, or let me make sure I understand, or just to clarify. These phrases help prevent misunderstandings. When you want to express that something is obvious or expected, you might say, obviously, or of course, or naturally. For example, obviously we need to leave early to avoid traffic, or of course I'm coming to your party. And when something is unexpected, you might say, surprisingly, or believe it or not, or oddly enough. Here are some phrases for when you're running errands or doing chores. You might say, I need to run to the store, or I have to do laundry today, or I should clean my room. Run to the store doesn't mean you're literally running, it just means you're going there quickly. When you finish tasks, you might say, I'm all done, or I finally finished. Let's talk about health and feeling unwell. If you're sick, you might say, I don't feel well, or I'm feeling under the weather, or I think I'm coming down with something. When asking someone how they feel, you say, are you feeling okay, or are you feeling better? And if someone is sick, you can say, feel better soon, or take care of yourself. When talking about abilities, you use can and can't. For example, I can speak English, or I can't swim very well, or can you drive? When talking about things you know how to do, you say, I know how to, like I know how to cook, or I don't know how to fix this. These are essential for talking about your skills and abilities. Let's discuss making complaints politely. If something is wrong with a product or service, you might say, excuse me, there's a problem with, or I'm sorry, but this isn't what I ordered, or I hate to complain, but. Being polite when complaining is important. You can say, "Would it be possible to get a replacement?" Or, "Could someone help me with this issue?" When expressing preferences, you use phrases like "I'd prefer," "I'd rather," or "I'm more of a," for example, "I'd prefer tea over coffee," or "I'd rather stay in tonight," or "I'm more of a morning person." These phrases help you express what you like better when given choices. Here are some phrases for encouraging others. You might say, "You can do it," or "Keep going," or "Don't give up," or "I believe in you." When someone accomplishes something, you can say, "Good job," or "Well done," or "I'm proud of you," or "You nailed it," which means you did it perfectly. Encouragement is powerful in any language. All right, we've covered 100 everyday English sentences that will help you in so many real-life situations. From waking up in the morning to going to bed at night, from talking with friends to shopping at stores, from making plans to expressing your feelings, these sentences are the building blocks of natural English conversation. Remember, the key to learning English is practice. Don't just memorize these sentences, try to use them. Think about situations where you could use each phrase, say them out loud. Practice with friends or family. The more you use these sentences, the more natural they'll become. And soon, you'll be speaking English confidently without even thinking about it. Thank you so much for learning with me today. I hope this video was helpful and that you feel more confident about using English in your daily life. If you enjoyed this lesson, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more English learning content. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep practicing, stay curious, and remember that every day is a new opportunity to improve your English. Take care and see you soon.